For our next host, I would like to introduce Thomas Juli. He is the founder of Human Business Labs and creator of Leadership Tango. He'll show us how to navigate rapid change from the inside out, aligning people, purpose, and profit through presence-driven leadership. So I welcome you to the stage, Thomas. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome everyone. Let me know if the tech works. I hope it does. And here we go. Let's talk about human first, business second, and how actually this mantra can by itself redirect you in a world of chaos, in a world of change. Because everyone talks about change. You may think of, oh yeah, change is all about, it's like revolution, and some of us may be overwhelmed by it, or maybe excited, or maybe worried. And then there is AI, and AI is take over our daily life and of course work. But it's not, when we talk about change, it's also talking about climate change, which has been on the agenda for quite some time. And that of course is dealing with change. When you look at robots and everything, some people say, yeah, technology is taking over. But I'm saying, hey, not so fast. Years ago, the futurologist John Naisbitt explained the most exciting breakthroughs of the 21st century will not occur because of technology, but because of an expanding concept of what it means to be human. Right. So actually, we're in a good shape, right? And especially this could be very encouraging for the Generation Z, the next generation of leaders. Before we get overly excited, let's actually have a look at some of the growing concerns, the top 3 concerns of Generation Z, because I think it's very important to understand these concerns to get a better picture of change and the future. Now, the number 1 concern of generations is creating purpose and values alignment. So it's not that they say, oh yeah, we just want a high-paying job and we just go to work and everything is fine. No. They want to join companies, organizations that are purpose-driven, where their own personal values are aligned with those of the business. Because if there's no alignment, they say, it's just a job and my heart is not in it. And they may just disengage. So that's definitely not very good. The number 2 concern is burnout and well-being. Now, when I did the research and I actually talked to some generations representatives, this surprised me a little bit because I thought, hey, this is something like the older generation or my generation deals with. But no, the young generation is very well concerned of burnout and the positive side, well-being. So work-life balance is not really negotiable. It's not just work hard and play hard. They want to see some alignment and they know what depression is about. And it is a serious issue. And then a number 3 concern is that simply disillusioned with traditional leadership and career models. You have the hierarchies, you have a career path, and everything is linear. Once you join a company, you stay with the company for the rest of your life. That's history. This may have been like decades ago, but the new generation differently. That's definitely not the case anymore. So there is a lot of chaos in this world, and it's difficult to see through, okay, where do we start? We don't have a clear, even though we do want to see what's ahead of us, and we want to see the bigger picture, but the question is, where do we start? So when we look at this, like where we just come from, the generation's concerns, and how does this to do with business? I call this a human business paradox. Let me explain what I mean by this paradox. Everyone talks about change, as I've said before. Right now, I'm trying to go to the next slide. Here we go. So change, and we have lots and lots of transformation projects. However, when you look at the numbers over the last 20 years, we can find out that 70% and more of all these transformation projects fail. This is pretty amazing. You think, what's the main number 1 reason? It's not technology, it's not the processes, but it's because businesses struggle to engage their own people. 77% of the global workforce is not actively engaged at work. And there are numbers that say actually it's like 86, but the fact is most of the working people are not actively engaged at work. Only very few people. As a consequence, business is losing trillions of dollars. I believe we have to change this. And there is actually a solution. So imagine the opposite. Imagine that change actually unlocks the potential within us. That transformation becomes a catalyst for growth, innovation, and sustainable impact. Imagine a future where teams are energized, engaged, and empowered to lead change. Imagine a future organizations that align their goals with the human needs. This is not an illusion. This is not a dream. This is the necessity. So the necessity is actually to align people, purpose, and profit. Now you say, okay, we have heard this before. It's nothing new. Everything is fine. But the thing is like, when we knew this before, why is nothing changing? And my hypothesis is this. Business, in most cases, just doesn't want you to lose control. They don't want to lose control over you as a human resource. So the question, what can you do about it? Is it that you're just like a number? That you're a victim of this change of business and all the transformations? What can you do about it? And this is actually where the MVP compass comes in. And I'm inviting you to do an experiment with me. You need a piece of paper and we'll go through some questions. And I want you to be very honest about these questions as you answer them, because they can reveal some truth about your inner drivers. Okay, hope you're ready. Here we go. Now, of course, we can say, okay, what's important to you? In the past, I've done some workshops where we talked about what is it that really values you. But actually, I like to talk about more about maybe the chaos in our world and some of the anxieties. So when you look at today's world, I want you to ask yourself, what is it that bothers you? What are you afraid of? Just take a note. Okay. And then I want you to ask yourself, why is this a problem? For you personally, not for business, for anyone, just talking about your perspective. Why is this a problem? And take that answer and now ask the question, why is that a problem? And once more, write down your answer on a piece of paper. And the third question is, why is that a problem? So we go down and down. Right now, we are on the third level. And you probably guessed it. The next question, why is that a problem? And one more time, for the fifth time, whatever you have written down as your answer, why is that a problem? And when you look at the piece of paper, you may have got an idea of a root cause of what bothers you. Now, question then is, who's affected by it besides yourself? And what happens if nothing happens? Say, whatever the problem is, it will never disappear. It will never vanish. Nobody can resolve it. How does it make you feel? And you can say, hey, I want to talk about inner compass. I want to talk about direction. So you actually may want to raise the WTF question, the what the dot, or you translate the WTF question to the meaning, what's the future? And let's play with the what's the future question. So you have the pain, or you have just discovered a little bit. And now I want you to ask yourself, in an ideal world, what is the ideal situation? So just like the opposite of the problem you just identified, you just wrote down. What is the ideal scenario? Now, we're not talking about solution. We're talking about a dream, a vision. We're talking about nirvana. We're talking about bliss. The question is, how do you want to live and work in the future? What's the future you want to live and work in? What do you want to experience in life? Become emotional. This is your future. This is your vision. And then what do you want to contribute? Okay, the more emotional you can be, the better. Now you can say, hey, okay, cool. So we have a vision, we dream, but it's just dream world. It may be viable to realize your vision. This raises the question, what can you do now, let's say today or within the next week or two, that brings you closer to your vision and that helps solve the problem you identified earlier? That's a practice. Okay. So we have motivation or meaning, we have the vision, and we have the practice. Now, it would be great if any of you could maybe share what you already have written down. I do not see the chats. Robin, you could double check. If there's something you want to share, please do so now. And if you want to share it with an audio, raise your hand and then Robin will unmute you. So you'd like to share regarding your MVP. And maybe to break the, because I have done this exercise many times. And one of the things that really bothers me, and not just like in today's world, but actually for the last 20 years, 25 years, is being treated as a human resource, as a thing, as a number. And I don't know, it just aggravates me. It makes me feel valueless and worthless and just being pushed around. Talking about work-life balance, it's tough when on Monday morning you say, okay, 5 more days till the weekend. That's not very motivating. The vision, of course, is then the opposite. I want to be treated as a human being with respect, where I can experience flow statements, where I have a great time, where my values are aligned with those of business. And the question then is, what can I do about it? For one, talk with other people about it. And I've been working a lot in projects, see how can I create an environment where people actually can nurture this dream state, one project at a time. So that would be, for example, my MVP. Anyone else who would like to share anything? And Robin, you check the chat, and if so, let me know. I read it, else we continue.
No one yet?
Okay. Let me then continue to the next dimension. And that is actually for us. How do you want to work? And we'll come to the dream state in a second. When you look at the work environment in, say, teams or in business, wherever you work, what's dysfunctional? What is it that bothers you? And why is it dysfunctional? What's the cause of it? And why is it a problem? Go down, ask the why question again and again. Now it's just you. If you do it with your teammates, you get different answers. You get more answers. It could be like a brainstorming, but you get the idea. You want to get down to the root cause. What's the problem? I call this a motivation. Why motivation? Because motivation could be positive. So motivation can be positive or can be negative. That's why it's called motivation. But it certainly has to do something with meaning. So anyway, you have an idea about the dysfunctionality in your work environment, working with other people. And then the question of, again, what's the ideal situation? How actually would you like to work? Not like in the immediate future, but more like if you have a magic wand, change things, what's the ideal situation in your team? What's important to you? What do you value the most? And in this case too, you can ask the why question. Dig down a little deeper. Why is this so important to you in your team? And then similar to the first dimension, we said, hey, okay, we have a vision, we have a dream. It's not possible to ever get there. Pretend for a second it is viable. So what do you do about it? So the question then is, what rules and principles of engagement call for your motivation and vision? As you work with other team, what kind of rules or principles do you need in your team environment that actually contributes to the vision of an ideal collaboration environment and that addresses the issues or resolves the issues of dysfunctional teams? And it would be great if there were anyone who would like to share what they have on their minds. Anyone who would like to volunteer and jump into the cold water and share their thoughts. Robin, can you unmute Safa Morales?
Yes.
Now you can speak. Hi, Chris.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I just wanted to share what I was thinking about, and I wasn't necessarily applying these questions to specific team interaction. My mind is so much on AI right now that I'm really focusing on what the implications of integration of AI within team settings has. And I think when you outline something like, what are the rules of engagement? I think that's a brilliant question and can be examined in that context, because I think that it's easy for an organization to think that dictating the terms is the right way to go, like a blanket dictation of what those rules of engagement might be. I would argue, and I'd be interested to know what your interpretation would be on this. I would argue that having a little bit more of an agile approach to this idea and figuring out what works best for the team, so creating an organic state of evaluation and dictation of those rules of engagement, will lead to longer term success.
Yes, agree. You mentioned having an agile approach. So that's like an iterative, incremental approach. Because sometimes we think, oh, there's a problem in, let's say, in a team setting. We need to have a solution that works. Okay, if it's a situation we have experienced before, this could very well be the case. But what if it's like a completely new situation we have never experienced before? Then old patterns may not be very helpful. The answer then is, let's try something and see if it works out. Let's do it for a while and then see what lessons we can learn. And if necessary, we just adapt it. I've been coaching a team for the last couple of weeks, and they're building a new product, and there are quite a few technical issues. And they said, we have no clue how to write the software. So I said, come up with a spike solution. And they said, what's a spike solution? I said, you program something with the purpose of learning something about the problem. So you get a better idea. And then you find out, you get some insights. So it's like a prototype. Once you have the insights, you throw away this spike solution, and you may have gotten a better idea how to approach it. So have an agile approach, even collaborating with other people. I think it's a very good and it's a very practical way to tackle such issues. Great question. Anyone else who would like to share their thoughts, sides? Please raise your hand.
I have a comment in the chat. Miaela says, I'm in the process of starting a business and looking for a business partner. Yeah, maybe Miaela, if you want to elaborate.
Otherwise, would I encourage you to just write it in the chat and then we come back to it a little bit later. And rather than just throw in the comments, the question, there's going to be plenty of time, space to do. Okay. Let's go then on, continue to the third dimension, which is actually project, which is business. And so far we talked about your individual dimension, what bothers you, and we talked about collaboration with a team. And now let's look at a business issue, the situation you were in. And you look at the overall situation and ask yourself, what's the issue? Why is it a problem? You guess it correctly. Whenever you see the why question, you don't stay on the superficial level. You dig down a little bit. You ask the why question 5 times. Why is it a problem? What's the cause of it? And you maybe sometimes have a tree of possible answers, but there's not just one answer to everything, but gives you an idea of what's involved, the complexity of a problem. And then you ask who or what is affected by this issue. This is important because sometimes when we work on issues in business, we think like we have a tunnel vision. We only see our world. We don't realize there are other stakeholders out there who may have an interest, may be affected by this issue. So getting a landscape of people who are involved helps a great deal. And then the third question is like, what happens if nothing happens? The answer is, if there is no pain, we tend to be passive. We don't really move. If there's no urgency, sometimes we just procrastinate things. Not very good strategy. So understanding the overall picture, how everything fits in, it's a good strategy to actually realize the urgency we're talking about. And from here, you ask, okay, what's the ideal situation? Now, especially in business, we have a tendency to do the following. We have a problem, and then the engineers come aboard and they say, okay, we need to fix it. No, do not fix it. Not at this point. Don't fix it. What you do is, we have the problem. What's the ideal scenario? Because in projects especially, requirements change. The question is, what's the overall, let's say, North Star you like to go to? What is your vision? If you don't have a vision, especially in times of change, you may just get lost. If you don't know where your North Star is, and your GPS doesn't work anymore, you're going to be in deep trouble. So what's your vision? And it goes way beyond the project scope. And then the question is, in your project, in your practice, what can you get done in your project that accounts for both the motivation, that is the problem, the issue, what have you, and contributes to the vision? So we have an overlap. And you want to make sure that whatever you're doing in the project addresses or contributes to the vision and addresses the problem. If it does not, it's a waste of time. It's an academic exercise, doesn't contribute to anything. And when you look at the number of projects in business, often they lack motivation because people have no idea why they're doing something and they don't have a vision. Why? Because they say, oh, we were asked to do work on something and there's nothing we can do. If you're happy with just being a resource, continue doing so. But if you want to do something meaningful, double check. What's the motivation? What's the problem? Underlying problem of that project? What is the overall vision? And how does your project, whatever you're doing, contribute to this vision? In my career, when I asked the question, so why are we doing something in the first place? Why is this project important? And what's the overall vision? Some stakeholders, some sponsors didn't even want to answer me. But they said, it's none of your business. And I said, excuse me? Yes, I want to know. No, just do the job. It's not such a job. I want to work in a project I can identify with. So maybe for the last 20 years, I have been typical Generation Z representative. That's why sometimes I smile when I see the top 3 concerns of Generation Z, because I have been experiencing these for a number of years. So it's actually cross-generational issues we're talking about. If there are any projects you can think of are the MVPs you'd like to share, please do so now. Again, raise your hand, or Robin, let me know if there are any comments at the chat so we can discuss those. Else, I just continue. What we actually have been doing now with the 3 dimensions, we started on the individual level, then we had the team level, then we had the business level. What we want to do, align our business goals with our human needs. If we do not have this alignment, we direction. We need this compass we need. If you work in a setting, in a business setting, in a project setting, where you do have this alignment, that you know why you're working on something, that your values are being shared with other people, that you believe in whatever business you are in, what the business is trying to achieve. I call this a wow moment, a wow project. Wow does not stand for Witch of Warcraft. In this case, wow is just wow. You talk about it and people say, oh, wow, that's cool. Can I work on this project too? This is impressive. This is great. And this is a setting, an environment that gives you actually energy, doesn't deplete your energy resources. It just gives you energy. There is joy involved and you can move mountains, so to say. This is where you really want to be, in a setting where the business goals are aligned with the human needs. This is what we call human business. And this is actually also the bottom line of human first, business second. Now, traditionally, it was business number 1. Sometimes even worse, sometimes some people said it's all about shareholder value. It's more like interest. It was not really so much about generating value. And then Agile came along and said it's all about the customer. Okay, if you just want to please and you want to delight the customer, that's great. But actually, who is it that generates the value? It's, you can say, the workforce, the people working, and that's the team members. So rather than just talking about customers, who in most cases are humans, let's say human first, and that includes employees. So what value do we generate for us humans? And then comes business, because bottom line is like, we generate value for people and by people. This is the essence of human business. So we look at the chaos we have been experiencing, where we started about half hour ago. We want to know where we're heading. We want to know, is this something that's in my brain or is it something external? Where do I fit in? Where's my point of view? We want to move from a state of anxiety to an environment of joy. It was interesting. It was like 3 weeks ago, I had a workshop And we talked about the inner compass. We talked about shaping the future, etc. And we had a deep dialogue. And then a thought came to me. And it actually was in a meditation. And my inner child said, like, why didn't you just work with me? And I thought, I was dumbstruck. I thought, wait a second, what is it? Is this like esoteric or deeply psychological? Maybe it is. But when we talk about motivation, what purpose is something deep inside of us. It's deep in our hearts and maybe even our soul. So we want to move from anxiety, playful, to a joyful environment. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. And it's actually up to us what we're going to do about it. We want to move from a drought, from a dry environment to a fruitful, to a living organism. Now, the question is like, where do we start? Is it actually possible? You start seeding one plant at a time. And yes, you have this vision, of an ecosystem, of a garden, of a green forest, but you have to start somewhere. You start with a small one. As we do, and let's say we're gardeners. We cannot pull the plant and say, okay, now grow. And you may know the quotation, it's anonymous. It says, where it says, gardeners do not grow crops. Gardeners create environments where crops can grow. So the question is, in our work environment, how can we create, or how can we co-create environments where crops can grow? And we're talking about crops of and for human business. And this is actually where human business labs come in, because we have been creating, we're in the middle of creating a living ecosystem. And I actually like to ask Alina, who is actually also in the team, to share our thoughts of what's a human business habitat? How did we come up with the concept of a human business habitat? Robin, can you please unmute Alina?
Hello. I hope
Works.
everyone else listens to me. My name is Alina Tinska. I'm a brand designer, but also fellow of Human Business Labs. Thank you for the invitation, Dr. Thomas Juli, unDavos Summit, and Robin also. I'm happy to be in the company of such intentional and selected people. I will tell you a short brief about what is a human business habitat. So it's a safe and engaging community online, but also offline, where we share real stories, we drop the mask, we embrace new habits, but also we learn how to build with small wins. So we try to align mental health with personal and business growth. So who is it for? It's for entrepreneurs, leaders, Gen Z leaders, change makers, but also for risk takers. Why they want to do all of this? Because they are seeking calm progress and belonging. Why it matters? Because our transformation starts with raw, imperfect humans. We are trying to put our humanness before strategy, before business, projects, or numbers. I hope it went
Great.
well. I
Thank
pass
you.
it on. Thank you very much.
And it's like where people, not just Generation Z, but any, let's say, conscious people, us, can share their small wins, but also concerns about in business or the future. And we call them circles or habitat circles. They're online and offline meetings and workshops where we take these concerns and see how we can provide guidance, such as with the MVP Compass. And this actually leads to the next question. So we want to create an environment where people understand human-centric environment, leadership. But if you just understand it with your head, it's one-dimensional. You need to learn how to embody it in your body, in your heart. And that's why we came up with Leadership in Motion, where, for example, we have Leadership Tango. We also have retreats in the mountains and some other places where we actually literally walk our talk. Because once you experience in your body, Robin mentioned in the beginning, I'm the creator of Leadership Tango. And this January at unDavos Summit during the World Economic Forum, I conducted a workshop on leadership tango. And there was a CEO and he said like, at the end, Thomas, I came here to get some new insights, some new inspirations for new leadership, human-centered leadership. But you know what? I found myself. And I thought, wow, when you understand leadership is not position, actually starts with us, it's presence, but it's actually also movement. And that when you lead people, it's not pushing, it's invitation. And following is a choice. And then once you start a dialogue, this is what leadership in motion is all about. This is human-centered leadership. So anyway, and leadership in motion, the workshops, this is what we offer. And then finally, we also have impact labs in, let's say, bigger settings where we invite teams to any challenge they have and turn these into projects for impact, which they can implement by themselves. So you have a problem, and after this time period of, say, a day or up to 6 weeks, the result is a project they can implement. These are called impact labs. For the time being, we're focusing on the human business habitat because it's a little easier to implement. Now, at the bottom, you see the fellows, the gardeners. We have a very small team, but anyone who's interested in participating in this living ecosystem is invited to become a fellow, to host these circles, to host these habitats, and to experience leadership in motion and possibly even impact labs. So we'll have some information. Actually, on the next slide, we encourage you, become a part of the human business habitat and start living with clarity. If you're interested in the Habitat Circle, reach out to us. You can also book a clarity call with us and follow us on LinkedIn and send us an email to info@humanbusinesslabs.com. And we're happy to provide you with more information. Our website, of course, you can also find lots of resources. It's being updated, and hopefully we'll have a relaunch within a week or 2 weeks that includes the information we have just been sharing on the ecosystem. And then, of course, if you have any questions you would like to ask me, this is my contact information. And a lot of the material we covered today and a lot of, let's say, the foundation of Human Business Labs can also be found in my books on human business, the spirit of human business, as well as leadership principles for project success. So at this point, I want to thank you and hope maybe you can unmute the few people who are in the call. And we're open for questions, comments. Maybe one or the others would like to share their MVPs, but please do so now. Robin?
Everyone is free to unmute.
Hey, Thomas, I'll jump in. Just wanted to thank you real quick for putting this together. I had noted that in the comments that I think the value of human business is something that is going to continue to be exponentially important, again, as we look at a chaotic world that is adopting AI at a very fast rate. I just read a research report that said that about 78% of businesses have adopted AI to some degree or form, which is a pretty impressive number considering where things started from. As my hypothesis here is that there's a fundamental lack of understanding in the value of what human business represents. And so this topic is critically important. I'm going to listen to you. My doorbell is ringing, so I have to get that.
Yes.
But
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your thoughts. Anyone else on this token?
Hello. Thank you again. Love the concept. It is so significant. How it got be done, how be done.
Okay. Question for the audience. It was audio-wise, it was difficult to hear you. The audio quality wasn't that good.
Oh, my apologies. Would you like me to repeat my question?
Yes, please.
Okay, absolutely. I joined the call a little bit late. I really loved the concept and what you guys are presenting. I saw that it was geared towards supporting independent business owners, but is there a strategy to bring this kind of thinking into existing organizations?
Absolutely. There is any organization, first of all, that's interested in learning more about it. There are workshops, even let's say 1 hour sessions, either for leadership, let's say leadership tango, or actually also in the impact labs. My experience is when you go to organizations, they say, yeah, we want to change, but we cannot change too much. But then you say, would it be possible to do a prototype or a pilot to experience what it's all about. And they say, yeah, and talk to HR. I don't believe in HR. That's a different story. But why don't we just tackle a real problem, a so-called a wicked issue, which has been around us for a very long time where no one has any clue. And let's tackle this in this impact lab, for example, and see how far we go. I've done this a couple of years ago at Daimler at Mercedes-Benz. We had swarm organizations for 4 weeks where we just practiced this. And these 4 weeks, we had high-performing teams in record time. They worked miracles. They found solutions, they developed concepts and more within 4 weeks, what they were not capable of doing in the past for 6 or 9 months. And people were just blown away. Now, what happened there was they forgot to connect the dots, because after these 4 weeks, it was expected that people would return to the old job. And guess what? They didn't want to return to the old job because they experienced a different setting. It was so extreme, some people just left the company because they said, no, we can't work there anymore. We're disillusioned of traditional leadership and management. We have experienced something different. So that's one of the extremes. So the answer to your question, is it possible to introduce this in organizational settings? Absolutely. But we say we start small, either on the leadership level with workshops, or let's start a pilot and projects and go from there. And as I've mentioned before, we also have the possibility of a fellowship program. So if you say, hey, I'd like to do this in a setting, I don't know, a business I'm working for, let's talk.
That makes sense. Thank you so much, Thomas.
Sure. Anyone else, please?
If you don't mind, Thomas, I'm sorry I got interrupted by that bell. I just wanted to close off, but I didn't hear the Zoom user's name, so I apologize for not being able to cite her. The last point I wanted to make was that I think the greatest challenge around the concept, and that's why I think this concept is so vitally important, is that organizations are too tied into beginning and end. We saw this with digital transformation. We saw this with business agility. We saw this idea of AI adoption as well. Integration has a beginning, integration has an end. And I think what we're going to find as we move forward is that the value of human business does not have a beginning or an end, but it has an exponential growth factor within an organization. As organizations understand how to tap into the value of human perspective or the value of human experience and what that can bring to a building session or an ideation in a meaningful way, independent of technology, I think you're going to see that as being a huge differentiating factor. And I see what you're talking about as being like a very accessible entry level into those types of not only communication ways of working, but also building frameworks within institutions so that they can continue to leverage that. So I think this is absolutely fascinating.
Thank you. It's like at the beginning, I said 70% of transformation projects fail. Here's the prediction. We're going to flip this equation. The transformation projects that are set up as human business projects succeed, period. Why? Because they align the human needs of the people involved with the business goals. And they are projects where you can really move mountains. And these are projects, and eventually, hopefully, these organizations will not have only 14 or 16% of the workforce that is highly and actively engaged, but maybe 80%. It's a true business case. If you only have 14 or 16% of your workforce actively engaged, you lose lots and lots of money. Let's reverse this. You cannot change it overnight, but you can do one step at a time, one project at a time. Do a pilot, do a prototype. It's low risk, not much you can lose. But the thing is, what I also tell people, there's one price you always have to pay. And this may be tough for some people out there because they do not like it. It gives you lots of energy, happiness, health, it shows performance and quality. It's a win situation. This is what human business is about. And with Human Business Labs, we want to build an ecosystem that helps grow this environment. And it's not just like a small team. So I invite you all, join the movement. And because together, yes, we can do it. And let's see where we go from there. and reach out to us. And then hopefully see you at another unDavos Summit event, or maybe also in Davos in January during the World Economic Forum. Back to you, Robin.
Thank you so much, Thomas, and also Alina, for a very insightful and inspiring look into the future of work and the organizations. I want to thank you both and everyone that showed up. I just want to close off with a few words and also an invitation that if you would like to host the unDavos webinar, don't hesitate to apply.